What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with SPY, the QQQ, and Nvidia as they're trying to break to new all-time highs, and also what's happening to Tesla as this thing is starting to show a little bit of life, but it's still stuck in this range. So I'm going to break down what that range is and what's going on with all these different tickers as we're seeing new all-time highs. But before I break any devil's information, before I talk about what's going on with the levels and the charts, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the market. So looking at the market, I just want to mention that we had the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. This was above expectations, showing some strong sentiment. We also had existing home sales, which is very close to what the forecast was. Everything else was quite good. The 5-year inflationary expectations were below expectations, which is good, meaning that in 5 years, consumers are expecting inflation to drop, at least according to the data. Not saying I trust any of this. This is just what the report is saying. And the current conditions report is showing strong data as well, alongside inflationary expectations for the month of January to be lower than expected. When people expect inflation to be lower, this could be a little positive economically, but nothing is guaranteed yet because, once again, I don't fully trust this data. But besides that, the market did like what it saw, and this helps the market squeeze. We also saw a lot of puts expiring today on SPY with a 1.71 puts to call ratio, and that's what helps drive the market up even higher. That did play somewhat of a role. So with all the shorts expiring, with all the things going on, with all the hype and the buying pressure that ended up emerging from the algorithms, the market has started to bounce very, very nicely. Tesla's trying to keep up, but it's still quite behind. It's testing a key resistance, which I will talk about in just a few minutes. But I just want to mention that Tesla has a bullish divergence forming, which does suggest it may attempt to push next week, but nothing is guaranteed because the news is what trumps Tesla, at least for now. Now, what's happened to Tesla is this is what I called out in the morning. We have a very important range in Tesla. It's very simple. We have this resistance at 212. We have key supports around 208. And there's a very minor shop area around this 210 area. But the main range is 212 to 208. We've been stuck here throughout the entire day. Now, looking at Tesla, it's been pushing for the last few hours with the market, but it's struggling to break above 212. If we do achieve a break above this or even a close above this, there is potential for it to get up to 214. If we break that, we have an imbalance to fill at 216 that's going to be coming next. This could be forming like a bullish divergence triple bottom like formation, which could lead to some upside. So there is potential for an accumulation to be forming here before it tries to push up towards this imbalance. And then finally, if we break 216, I think Tesla's going to push up for 220 again if we get that break. But remember, that's assuming we get the break. I'm not saying it's happening yet. Those are just some levels to watch for. If Tesla breaks down, you're going to be watching 208 as critical support, okay? Especially going into next week. If we lose 208, we could be dropping all the way down to our next support at 205. We have a minor support historically way down there. You have to go back on the chart just to find it like way, way, way back here in like November. And if we lose 205, this thing could easily drop down to get very close to 200 flat. A big drop could be coming if we lose that support. So those are your levels on Tesla. What is it doing right now? Well, it's very simple. It's kind of range bound, going back and forth and back and forth. It's fighting for 212. So in my opinion, I don't really care about if Tesla, pumps really nicely or not for today. The question is, can we close above 212 or do we close below it? I'll be watching that very carefully. Otherwise, Tesla's not really doing anything too crazy. Still kind of stuck in this range, and it might just be kind of stuck throughout the day. May shuffle a bit, but we're going to be watching to see if we could break this. Now, there's a lot more excitement coming, but let me actually talk about Apple first before I break down the other stocks out there. Apple is very important. Here's why. So in my video from yesterday, I mentioned that Apple had this big gap. Let me show you where this gap is. It was around 192. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. And let me actually pull up the daily chart just to show you that. So it's at 192. We have this gap. And then this gap is at 192-ish, the very low 192s. For us to remain bullish, we had to break above 190. And I told you once we broke that, 192 is coming. That's what happened to Apple. We did reach 192. It's still holding up very nicely. This is helping the market push. We have a bullish cross in the PPO2, which suggests more upside is possible. So Apple is helping the market push, not to mention all the puts expiring, the squeeze we're seeing, and then also these other factors such as like decent economic data and manipulation. They're all playing their roles, if anything. So Apple pushing up. Let's talk about Apple real quick before I break down the big winners for today. We have 192 as resistance. If we break above this, there's 192.5. And if we break above that, there's 193.5. For support, you're going to be watching one. Basically, there's minor support at 191. The strongest support at 190.5. If it loses this, there's technically 189 for minor support and then strong support at 188. That's going to be very, very typical and very strong for Apple. If we lose that, though, 186.5 is likely coming next. So those are your levels on Apple. In my opinion, it's favoring the bulls. It's holding up very nicely. It's going to likely shuffle very close to the higher 191s. I think that's going to get a strong close. So I think Apple's looking very good. So we have a big winner today. That's going to be SPY alongside a couple of others. This thing has broken all-time highs. We actually broke above 480. And I told you if we broke this, we could be looking for 482. We have resistance at 482.75. If we break above this, we're going to be watching and try to push above 483. So it's going to get very tight. Generally, when stocks break out, guys, they get a little bit tight when they get to the new all-time highs. So we have minor support there, and then I would be watching 484 above that, and then 485. Also on SPY, especially when these stocks break all-time highs, every dollar I believe should be watched very carefully. But for now, we'll just watch it like this very simply. We've never actually tested these levels before on SPY, so we're in new territory. So watch it very carefully. This thing is still holding up very, very nicely. I believe the most pivotal support is going to be, not support, resistance is going to be 485 if we do end up getting all the way up there. And overall, it's still holding up very, very nicely. So we're kind of shuffling in the 482s. If we start to break down, you're going to be watching 482. If we lose this, there's minor support at 481. It's not that strong. The strong support is going to be around 480. That's where we have very strong support. If we do lose that, our next target is going to be all the way down to like 478. But right now, this is still favoring the bulls big time. The bulls have the bigger edge. This is likely going to try to retest its high around 482.75 again, and it could just be continuing to break to new all-time highs. This is very strong, very parabolic, favoring the bulls. I just wanted to break down the levels earlier. We could be looking for this thing to try to break to even new all-time highs again. There's no sign of this breaking down yet. It's still holding up. It is fighting some tight resistance in the 482s though, but it's still doing a very great job at holding up. It's still very, very strong, favoring the bulls for more upside later. So watch those resistance levels I called out. On the triple Q, this thing is trying to break above 421. So we had 420 as a key level. We actually broke above this. If we lose 420, there's some support at 419 is very minor. Then we have 418 as critical support. And then for resistance, as we're trying to break out, I'm going to be watching 421.5. It's going to be one level that's worth noting. Then we have 422.5 above that. So I'll be watching each of these levels on the QQQ. Overall, it's looking very strong. It's still trying to break out. It is heavily favoring the bulls right now. The bulls have a big edge right now. They're winning. This thing is just continuing to break out. There's no sign of this stopping, and it's giving the bulls a much, much bigger edge. So, if anything, it looks like it's going to push higher. It's still going to maybe break its all-time high again. So, it broke an all-time high, may make a new all-time high again and again. Still pushing very nicely. We're going to be looking for it to test 421.5s and eventually the 422s. Looks very, very strong. There's nothing stopping it quite yet. Watch and see if we turn by the end of the day, though. If we do turn, 420 is going to be a key support. But for now, we're not turning. We're still looking very strong. The last one I'm going to talk about is Nvda. I mentioned to everyone that this thing could go flying to the upside again. Nvidia had bullish news. I called this out in the morning. We had bullish news with Meta buying those AI chips, getting a big, big, big amount of orders for those. You can be watching 592. If we break 592, you're going to be looking for a push towards our next level is basically 595. That's going to be some tight resistance. If we get above this, there's minor resistance at 597 and tough resistance at 600 coming next if Nvidia breaks out. Now we're basically testing 592. If we do reject, watch 590 flat. If that fails us, there's minor support at 587, stronger support around 584.84 to 585. And if we lose that, 580 is going to be our next target. So what do I think? Excuse me. What do I think Nvidia is doing? We're pushing very nicely. It's looking very strong. There's no sign of this breaking down yet. The odds favor this thing attempting to push up higher. And we're going to be looking to see if there's a good push towards the 592 area or even above that. This is heavily favoring the bulls. So let's see if this thing tries to continue to push. And if anything, it looks very, very strong. It looks very strong. There's no sign of it stopping quite yet. Nvidia is likely going to try to break to another new all-time high. It's looking very strong. So with that being said, going back to Tesla has this range which is very important to watch. It's still kind of fighting the range. We'll see if this thing can try to hold above 212. If we do close above this, there's going to be some hope for it to try to push up higher next week. Don't forget the news also affects it, so you want to be very careful with it. But on top of that, I just want to call out that we have a bullish divergence developing. It's trying to push. Let's see if we could try to hold above this resistance. And then on top of that, know that although Tesla's kind of falling behind, it's not pushing as hard as the others out there. SPY, the QQQ and Nvidia still look very strong. So does Apple. Tesla's kind of showing some life, but it's a little bit behind, still kind of in this range. So we'll watch and see where Tesla closes. Otherwise, we have about at the time I'm recording this, 57 or 53 minutes left until market close. So have a great day, guys. Enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Let's hope Tesla gets a good close. The long term is still bright for Tesla, regardless of where it is, in my opinion. Thank you for listening again, and peace out.